Welcome to this video in the Kofax transformation series. My name is Jesper Scherpenhuizen and today I want to talk to you about RPA and NLP, so robotic process automation and natural language processing. And I want to focus on three major topics within NLP. Language recognition, so actually determining what the language is a piece of text is written in. Entity extraction, so within that text, what are the people, locations, objects, dates that are being discussed, all those entities, and how we can extract those from that text. And sentiment analysis. So on the one hand, how positive or negative is a piece of text, but also how positive or negative are the entities that we've identified previously being discussed in that text. And I want to put this in a real-world context. And that's why I decided to do a bad press research by combining these technologies. Bad press research is typically part of customer due diligence, sometimes also known as know your customer, and it's almost every time part of anti-money laundering checks that are being done within FSIs. So if you want to, onboard at a bank, they typically do these sort of checks in the background. So for this demo, what I want to do is I want to have a Kofax RPA robot that goes online, does a lookup on Google News, gets the very first news article, and then submits that to the Kofax transformation project that we've built specifically for that. That project will then do language recognition, entity extraction, and sentiment analysis, and will return the sentiment of the entity, or in this case, the person that we are interested in. So without further ado, let me dive into the demo, and let me start with the transformation project that we have. So even though I'm now doing this within Kofax RPA, natural language processing, and more specifically named entity extraction and sentiment analysis, have been part of Kofax transformation in all its different shapes and forms for a couple of months now. Whether you are running a recent version of Kofax, Total Agility, Kofax RPA, or Kofax transformation modules, or KTT, you will have NLP available to you. But do keep in mind that you will need to install the language packs separately. So what I have is I've built a project, and which actually does nothing more at first than just identify the language that we are interested in. This is actually based on a project that is shipped with every version of Kofax transformation, so you will have this available to you, and you can then use that. But what I then did is also make sure that if we've identified, for instance, a document as being written in English, that we apply natural language processing. So this is on the class settings. We say we want to do this for English, and we want to extract the named entities. And we can do that for all these languages. So for instance, also in Dutch, we have those. So we now know that the entity extraction will happen. What we can then also do is apply the two new NLP locators. So we have the named entity extraction locator and the sentiment locator. Let me just quickly grab a document here. So this is a document about Bill Clinton. For the rest of the demo, I will focus on Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and maybe even Barack Obama, so we can look into those. So here we have that document. What we can then do is, for these locators, well, this is now in Dutch, and we need to do this in English, of course. I can actually go into that and say, well, if you can test that, you'll see the entities being identified straight away. Give it a second. There we go. And you can already see things like what's the text, what the entity types are, and what the sentiment actually is. And we can do the same thing for the overall sentiment there too. Just test that. So this is a very, fairly neutral piece of text. Well, we then make sure that we assign those to the fields, and there you go. So again, sentiment locator and the named entity locator there as well, which will then be done based on the language that we've presented that with. So in regards to the actual robot, what we have here is a simple robot that does nothing more than just goes to Google News and extracts text from the very first hit. So in this case, I'm looking for news regarding Gregory Katz, and this was the actual first hit that we found. We extract the text, we write it to a file, because that makes it very easy, and we then submit the flat text to the Kofax transformation engine, which will then also apply those new NLP capabilities. So it's now being done in the background, where we need to wait for the transformed documents. So those will then be classified to the right language. The entities will be extracted. The overall sentiment will be extracted. And also, of course, the sentiment on those entities. We then extract all entities and the sentiment from that document and also the language that we have. Let me just step out of this real quickly. And step out. We assign the language and we loop through all the entities. Now, of course, we loop through until we find, in this case, the entity for Gregory Katz. We can switch to debug mode and we can debug it from there. So again, we input a name. It's gonna go online to Google News, find the first result, classify it to English in this case, extract all the entities and the sentiments for those entities, and then going to loop through that and find the actual entity for this person. And here you see the actual output. Let me just show you that. And this is, of course, interesting. This is now a 0 sentiment. That means it's extremely neutral. So we can see the actual output that we have there and the actual title there too. But because this is now a Kofax RPA robot, we can of course immediately submit this and host this on our management console. And we can then make sure that we have this exposing the REST and SOAP endpoints. So we can actually go to here and you can now immediately see that we can just submit all sorts of names to this. So let's do exactly that. Let's do Bill Clinton and test it. This way it's extremely easy to incorporate this sort of functionality in overall CDD, KYC and AML processes, because you can just have your platform call a Kofax robots, which will then return, okay, we found this news, this is the sentiment and this is how positive or negative it is. And after a few seconds, you will actually start to see those results. Keep in mind, I'm just running this on my laptop, so this is not a production grade environment. But this is so easy to do. It took me like a couple of hours to build this. So here we have the actual results. So it found Bill Clinton on the same one there, and the sentiment is slightly positive, 0.14. So that's very positive regarding Bill Clinton. And we can do the same thing, of course, as I said, for Trump. Test that as well. And of course, this is not a real world example because I'm just looking at the very first hit on Google News. And you might want to do, well, the first 10 or the first 5. But you can easily extend this because, again, it's a business user who will be designing these sort of processes. So you can think about how it's currently happening within your processes. Do we just do the first one, the first 5, the first 10? It doesn't really matter. Here we go. So here we have a result for Trump. Pressure mounts on Trump to Project Unity, and it is minus 0.13. So it's slightly negative. And then if we do Obama, and we do a test on that, you'll see that too. So what I've shown you in this quick demo is how you can easily build a machine learning model regarding language recognition. Of course, use the project that we already shipped with that. How you can apply NLP to these documents, how you can do named entity extraction and sentiment analysis, and how you can then use a robot to consume that output there as well. So let's see. Okay, Obama 0.34. So that's fairly positive. Well, this is actually my my quick demo on this. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, feel free to reach out to me through the normal channels, whether it's on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or leave a comment here on YouTube, and I'll try to get back to you ASAP. I do know that I need to ask people to subscribe to my channel, so please do. Have a great day. Thanks for your time. Cheers.